Top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Marketing Automation Masterclass. I'm Betsy Brondi. I'll be your host, and Jenny and Eric will be presenting to you today. So you're aware this session is being recorded and it will be sent out to you after the session sometime in the next couple of days. Also, we will be doing a giveaway, so you can win some Splatfest swag. 2 winners are going to be chosen at random at the end of this webinar, and we'll announce those at the end. And you can look for a message from us to get your shipping information so that we can send everything out to you. So over the course of the webinar, feel free to type your questions either in the chat box or in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them as we go or answer them at the end, just however it seems to work. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny and Eric. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Nebbia. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing at Masslock Company. I'm responsible for all of our digital marketing activities, as well as the websites for our 2 primary brands, Masslock and SentrySafe. And I've been at Masslock for a little under a year and a half. For those that don't know, Masslock is a leading provider of locks to both the retail and commercial markets. And this year we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary, which has been a lot of fun for a marketing guy like myself. We've been doing a lot of nice campaigns around that. And then SentrySafe is a leading provider of safes to the retail market. We're headquartered outside of Milwaukee, so go Bucks, big game 5 tonight. As far as how we go to market, we sell very little direct. Most of our sales are through our retail and distributor partners, such as Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, and Grainger, as well as many others. And given how we sell through distribution, getting data about the end users of our products is a little challenging, which obviously impacts what you can do from a marketing automation perspective, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Thanks, Derek. I am Jenny Malio. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing Automation at Laughlin Constable. Laughlin Constable is a full-service, independent creative and digital agency. We take brands from now to next by leveraging technology to elevate creative. I lead the marketing automation discipline within the agency and the team of all-star marketing automation experts that we have in-house here. We provide a lot of different services as it relates to marketing automation, everything from migrations, staff augmentation, strategy, and execution side of things. I myself have been in the email marketing and marketing automation world for over 15 years and have been certified across the top platforms. So really familiar with a lot of different marketing automation tools and technologies out there. You'll probably hear us talking a lot about Eloqua today, but have familiarity with a lot of them as well. So looking forward to the discussion. And just to kind of level set things with regards to today's discussion, we want to first kind of share a little bit more about Masslock SentrySafe and their automation story, some of the challenges and opportunities, strategy development and execution that we went through, and then the results and learnings. And then kind of taking that over to just the side of your marketing automation journey, really talking about assessing your own situation, where are you at, and then talking about the keys to success and kind of the crawl, walk, run mentality. And then, as Betsy mentioned, we'll also finish up with a Q&A. But again, we certainly want this to be a discussion. We want this to be of benefit to you as well. So please do put questions, comments in the chat, and we can have some discussion along the way as well.
All right, so getting into it now. Historically, Masslock and SentrySafe hadn't focused a lot on digital marketing. And one of the reasons I joined the company was to significantly expand our digital marketing efforts. Historically, Masslock did very little email marketing and SentrySafe did none. So as I was interviewing and when I first joined the company, I saw a huge opportunity to leverage digital marketing, with these iconic brands to specifically marketing automation, because there's so much you can do from a marketing automation perspective to engage with customers. And yet then at the end of the day, for us, one of our primary goals is driving leads to our retailers and distributors. So we wanted to leverage digital marketing and specifically marketing automation to increase customer engagement and to drive more leads to our distribution partners. So from a marketing automation perspective, we decided to start with SentrySafe. When we looked at all the opportunities as well as challenges, we just identified a lot more opportunities from the SentrySafe brand. First and foremost, we had a lot of robust data. So as all the marketers out there know, data is just key from a marketing automation perspective. And even though consumers don't buy directly from us, so we don't have that first party purchase data, they do register thousands and thousands of safes with us. So we have a lot of information about the types of safes that people own that wasn't being used. From an opt-in perspective, we already had some mechanisms to allow customers to opt in, but again, no emails were being sent to any of the people that have opted in. And then from our consumer research, we knew that customers don't just buy one safe. They buy a safe, they fill it up, they need to buy another safe, or they buy a safe for another part of their house or their office or for a family member. And also accessories are very important with maintaining the safe. There's lots of things you can do from an accessory perspective to prolong the life of your safe. So cross-selling and upselling products was just a huge opportunity that we weren't taking advantage of yet. So you're probably all asking, okay, if all these great opportunities, why weren't we doing marketing automation? And there were, as probably not surprised, a few challenges. First, we didn't have an email program. So as I mentioned earlier, we sent no emails historically for SentrySafe. We didn't have the resources, we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have a plan. From a data perspective, we had a lot of data, over a decade of data, but a lot of it was old. So how much do you trust the data? As everybody knows, data gets old quickly in a digital world. So there were some concerns we had about the data. And then also just like, where do we start? It was kind of overwhelming. We were like kids in a candy store thinking about all the low hanging fruit and what we could do, but it really was kind of overwhelming. So really trying to figure out where to start. And then Masslock has never done something like this before. It was new to the organization. So, how would we be able to get funding to get this type of project approved? And everybody knows, it's just not a one-time cost. This is an ongoing program, which is something I made clear from the very beginning. We're not just asking for funding for 2020 or 2021. This is ongoing commitment that we wanted the organization to make to support a program like this. So then from a strategy and development perspective, we worked with Laughlin to develop the strategy and clearly define the objectives, which is key. We built a business case that we still use today and look back to see if we're meeting the objectives. And the strategy and the business case was pretty robust, and that allowed us to get approval for this project in 2020. And as far as the goals and what our objectives are, at the end of the day, at least for me, being a digital marketer for going on more than 15 years, it's all about increasing engagement with customers. If you can increase engagement with customers, lots of good things end up happening. And then we also wanted to build loyalty with the brand. SentrySafe is a great iconic brand. We have a lot of very loyal customers, so we just wanted to maintain that loyalty and grow it. And then we wanted to leverage the data that we had about the consumers as well as their behaviors to really personalize the message. Again, it's all about personalization these days and sending unique custom messages to the audience based on their behavior and who they are and what safe they own in this case. And of course, at the end of the day, we want to sell more safes and accessories. So from a high level, those are our primary objectives.
So as we kind of were working through that and starting, strategy, building it out, and then working towards execution, it started becoming very clear that there was an opportunity on the side of individuals that have registered their safes over the course of time to be reaching out to them, being able to provide some information, as well as sending out just some general information, really welcoming people to the SentrySafe brand within a welcome series as well. And one of the big things that we wanted to do was to make sure that we better understood how everybody was going to flow through the communications. So sometimes you may have a communications flow that looks even crazier than this. Sometimes it might be more simplified, but you want to ensure that you're understanding where people are coming from and what communications they're going to be receiving over the course of the campaign, so that you can better organize and execute on that.
Yeah, just to jump in here, like just to reiterate, this is so important. So identifying these different audiences and personalizing the communication to those audiences is just so important. And Jenny and I had so many discussions over months because I'd be like, wait a minute, what happens if somebody does this, then they do that? What emails are they going to get? So we refer back to this diagram many times. And as you can see, it's very complex. Like to do this manual, having somebody sending these emails would just be insane. So that's when marketing automation comes into play. So, setting up understanding what the plan is, the audiences, the messages, the campaigns, and setting this all up so that it's automated and then triggered based on where they are in this matrix is just so important.
Yeah, great points, Eric. And to add a little bit more onto that as well, to better, understand what is triggering. And then if somebody adds on that next layer of, they do register their SAFE after they've opted into the welcome series, then, understanding when they're going to receive those communications so you can create some rules around, are they going to get 2 in one day, or can we ensure that they're going to receive something spaced apart and not all bombarded at one time with those communications as well? Certainly don't want to overwhelm people when they've opted in to receive something. So obviously then we went to the execution side of things, and we created these 2 campaigns that were part of, I guess, phase 1 of CenturySafe Communications. And we had a great opportunity, as we've been speaking to, with the data that was available. And so we were able to take a lot of the information that we had with regards to the safes that were registered by individuals and create some customized information for them. So they were receiving details about the particular models that they had registered for, information about their manual for that particular safe, and some information about maybe a video link. But aside from that, we also took it, and for those 140 different product variations that were out there, also outlined different accessories that might go with those particular products, and also different safes that might be, the next level up to upsell, or even to cross-sell something that might be similar to different individuals, and had that all dynamically pulling in based upon those initial safes that they had registered. Obviously, along with that, we were able to pull in some personal details. So there was a name in the different emails or subject lines, as well as some specific customized images that pulled in. So it might have been their particular safe. And the other piece of it that was really important in the execution side was building this out in somewhat of a modular fashion, in ways that we could leverage the different parts and pieces to create additional communications, keep the same brand look and feel consistent, and have future builds and on that roadmap of other communications that we want to be sending out.
A couple other points I'll just make here as well is we decided very early on to focus on educational content and, again, building the brand and increasing that engagement, because, again, we believe if we do that and you build a loyal customer, a lot of good things happen, like increased sales. So as you can see in these emails, we are promoting safes, but it's secondary. The primary message is all about educational. And what we learned from talking to our customer service team is a lot of people receive a safe, and some of our safes can be, pretty expensive and have lots of features. They don't really understand how to use the safe or take full advantage of their safe. So getting information about the safe into these consumers' hands is very important. So as Jenny mentioned, since we knew what type of safe they owned, we have a ton of educational content. So these emails contained a manual for their safe. So once you register the safe, you get an email that has the manual. You should have gotten it in the box with the safe, but here's an electronic version. Here's a video, at least one video, sometimes multiple videos on how to take care of your safe and how to open your safe and all the features and benefits of the safe. And then the third key point, which I didn't know until I joined the company, is I kind of mentioned it earlier. There's lots of things you should be doing to maintain your safe. so that you're at last and you're happy, satisfied customer. One of the things is we recommend opening your safe at least every month, if not every 3 months, and use desiccants to avoid moisture buildup. So you can see the kind of the third screenshot there where it says it's time to open your safe. That email is triggered, every 3 months, just reminding people, again, we're not trying to sell products initially. It's reminding people to open your safe, stop moisture, buy some desiccants, which, by the way, we sell desiccants, and then need any other help, contact our customer service. We have a very strong, robust customer service team that, are happy to help people, take care of their safes. But again, you can see, like in the screenshot all the way to the right, we are then upselling some of our best-selling safes as well, further down in the email. So as far as results, we've just seen fantastic results, better really than I expected. I guess we had a business case and we made some assumptions, but I had no idea like how loyal the SentrySafe customer base was, how much they'd want to engage with us digitally, since we never really sent them emails before. Like, what would they be like? Like, why is this company all of a sudden sending me emails that I never got before? But the results have just been fantastic. So we get more than 4,000 opt-ins every month. We've created a few ways that people can opt in to receive our emails, one through the Register My Safe process, as well as a few other ways. And, and I always stress this internally, in less than 6 months, we went from sending no emails to having no subscriber list to now our subscriber list is well over 100,000 customers and growing. And these are like active customers, not somebody who bought 6 years ago. So, relevant, relatively active customers. And we continue to see that the subscriber list growing. From an engagement perspective, very happy with the open rate and click-through rates. It's higher than we estimated. And as you can see on this slide, click-through rate is twice the industry average. So customers are interested in hearing from SentrySafe, are interested in the information we're providing in these emails. And then the last point here is we've just seen a significant increase in digital engagement. So as you guys all know from a digital perspective, there's lots of things you can track, but there's also things that you just can't track specifically tied to an email campaign. So we look at obviously everything specific that we can tie to the email campaigns, as well as just the overall metrics. And SentrySafe.com, we've just seen substantial growth in many of our key metrics that we're following. Website visits are up significantly since we launched these campaigns. Leads to retailers, I mentioned earlier, that's one of our primary goals from a digital perspective, since we don't sell direct, is to send leads to Depot, Lowe's, Amazon, and others. Safe registration. So if somebody doesn't have a safe registered, we're reminding them via these emails to register safe. We've seen a very large increase in safe registrations, and that's good for the customer because there's benefits to them to having their safe registered, where they have all their information at their fingertips. And then it's beneficial to us as well because we have more information about them and we can target messages to them. And then accessory purchases. We've had a challenge over the years in growing the amount of accessories that we sell on our website. So this is the first time, again, I've only been here a year and a half, but we've seen a nice bump in accessory purchases, driven from our marketing automation campaigns, which again is good for us because we make money, but it's also good for the customers because it helps them take care of their safes more and be more of a satisfied customer.
Eric, we have a couple of questions relevant to what you're talking about right now. So we did have someone ask, since you mentioned that it had been, so long without sending any emails, how many emails did you send to at a time when you first started sending to these contacts that had never received an email from you? And did you use a list forming process for that?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, Jenny, if you want to handle that question, I can also jump in, but that was a lot of the discussions Jenny and I had with that one slide she showed so identifying the audiences, and exactly right. We don't want to overwhelm these people. So the welcome series is a 3-part triggered email series that is over 2 weeks. And that is after they opt in. So that they opt in, then we would send them 3 emails over 2 weeks. The Register My Safe emails, that happens after they register their safe. So they register their safe, then they're getting an email right away about their safe information. And then every 3 months, we'll send another email. One of the things that we did do, we mentioned about the data that we had, more than 10 years of data of people registering their safe. We did go back a little bit. Obviously, we didn't go back 5 years because that data is pretty old, but we did go back a little bit to bring some of those people into that initial send. And the colder the contacts, the lower the open rate and click-through rate we have. Definitely the people who registered their safe more recently, we had a lot more engagement than the people who registered their safe, say 6 months ago. But Jenny, I'm sure you have more to add as well.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. So the Eloqua instance that it was leveraged was actually also utilized on the B2B side of things. So IP warming from that standpoint, we didn't need to leverage because there were consistent emails going out. However, we were cognizant of the fact that we were sending quite a handful on that front end. I want to say it was around the 20,000 marker. And so we did split it up over the course of several days. And then obviously anybody that was opting in after the point at which we launched, then we started to send regularly to them over the course of time. So everything is all in real time. So when they're receiving something, it's, you know, not as a batch, it's real time being sent to them and then ongoing throughout the course of each of the campaigns that are being sent. So, and then we also did add some additional records at a later point in time as well to just extend a little bit further back in time. But again, as Eric mentioned, certainly didn't go back 5, 10 years or otherwise, given the state of data.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So Massalock owned Eloqua, so we're an Oracle shop. So we owned Eloqua, and we were using Eloqua both from a sales perspective, so our sales team can engage with their customers, as well as Massalock was sending not triggered automated emails, but basically we were sending a monthly newsletter to a certain part of our customer base. So when we started sending SentrySafe emails for the first time, it was leveraging Eloqua and it was leveraging the same IP address. So yeah, we didn't have to go through the IP warming, but there were times that Jenny and I had conversations. Okay, Massalock's about to send a big email about something. Let's talk about how this impacts the SentrySafe sends and how to time them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, thank you guys.
So then just the last point on this slide is, you know, based on this success, we're now planning on launching marketing automation campaigns for the Massalock brand this year, which is very exciting. So key learnings perspective, you know, I'm the type of guy that likes to move fast, and especially from a digital perspective, you're always chomping at the bit to try new things. And you know, as soon as I started, when I interviewed at Massalock, we talked about marketing automation. So as soon as I joined, I wanted to get going as quickly as possible. Then I kind of realized the complexity. Even though we all want to move really quick and you want to start running, you know, I think taking your time, it was key for us. We built a very strong strategy. So I realized right away that we had Eloqua, so we had the tool, but we didn't have the internal resources to do it. So right away, we partnered with Laughlin, worked with them hand in hand on developing the strategy as well as the business case. And I just think that's so critical because one, it helped us, you know, obviously get approval, but it really helped build such a strong foundation that once we got approval, which did take a couple months, we were ready to execute. So I just dusted off that strategy document and say, Laughlin, let's go. We're ready to execute. And the other thing is having a really strong strategy and plan and business case. It really helped build alignment both internally and externally. And like I said, it took a few months to get approval, but once we did, we had that document and we were ready to go. So take your time up front, even though it can be frustrating, but it definitely does pay dividends. Data and content is key. Like luckily, SentrySafe had a lot of data. Content was more of a challenge. So it's something we send out quarterly newsletters now. Luckily, the marketing automation emails, we had all that content because that was personalized based on either them opting in or the safe that they registered. And we had to do some cross-selling, some matrix between cross-selling and the videos and the manuals, but that was all doable. But the content for the newsletter, again, focusing on educational content because we don't have a ton of educational content on our website. So that's kind of an ongoing process that we work with Laughlin on, you know, every quarter, you know, what's next. We have a content calendar. We kind of know what we want to do for the next few months, but then getting that content is very important because again, our strategy is education. We want to educate these customers both about their safes, about the industry, about security. So getting relevant content that customers care about is very important. And when we launched the first newsletter, because personalized emails always have good click-through rates and open rates, well, they should, because they're personalized to the user. Newsletter that isn't personalized, we had some concerns as like, oh, is our open rate or click-through rate going to drop? Luckily, we've sent one newsletter so far, and we've seen really strong engagement on the newsletter as well. So content, very important. And the last point here is it's so complex. You can see on that slide we showed with all the behavior, all the audiences and all the flows. So having the right tool is important. Eloqua is a great tool for this. Having resources, whether it's internal or external, like we would not have been able to do this without Laughlin. So we partnered so closely with Laughlin. They're just an extension of our internal marketing team. And that's just been critical part of our success. They've just been a great partner throughout this whole process, from beginning strategy, business case, to executing, to working on the newsletters, to reviewing the metrics and how we're going to optimize it, how we're going to change it going forward. We just met with Jenny, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, reviewed all the metrics for the existing campaigns and just talked about ways that, even though they're doing great, but there's always ways to improve it. What can we do to improve the campaign? So those are the learnings I had.
Yeah. From my end, kind of some of the marketing automation tips and tricks side of things. So taking on 140 dynamic pieces for anybody that does work specifically in Eloqua, the dynamic content section, if you're a Marketo person, snippets type thing, you're putting basically code in and changing up a link, a name, different things for 140 different products. And not only that, but just like over and over, we're talking about that also for cross-selling as well as accessories. So one really great tip that actually a coworker had brought up the suggestion of was leveraging mail merges within leveraging like code and then mail merging different things in, which was really helpful in the process. It also was something where, we definitely had to be really, really organized. So everything was created kind of in spreadsheets so that, if a product ever retires, we can easily take a look at that and see how to make the changes that are necessary within the email program itself. If there's new accessories that come out, those types of things. So just, smart ways of going about things instead of trying to do things and take days upon days, probably it would have otherwise been to go through that process of building that out in that customized format. The other thing is taking advantage of every opportunity. So, SentrySafe, they had all of these great sets of data from the Register My Safe side of things, but also recognize that, this is a well-known brand and that people have an interest in receiving communications from the brand itself. And so having the ability to opt people in to, various communications, the Welcome Series, ongoing newsletters, was really important as well. And we tried to take advantage of every place that people may be interested. So on the website, we added what we fondly call the ankle, because it's right above the footer of the web page. And that is somewhere where people can just go and opt in very easily as well. And just ensuring that we're capturing, anybody who may be interested in information from SentrySafe. And then the last piece is obviously planning ahead. Eric kind of spoke to this a little bit as well, as far as, taking the time on that end, but also, we really thought about it strategically from a standpoint of what the future might hold. So creating those modular kind of emails where we can use different pieces. We can have that same look and feel to have a consistent brand message ongoing. And then the idea, we also created a preference center off the bat. Full well knowing that at this point in time, we're basically sending, if you're opted into Register My Safe, you get those communications. If you're opted also into just general SentrySafe, you're getting communications from the brand itself. However, in the future, we may decide that we want to segment that further. So if we have a preference center built and we start collecting that data and information from people on the front end, it allows us more easily to be able to create those segments moving forward rather than trying to get everybody to now answer these few questions and that type of thing. So that was an important piece as well.
I guess one more thing that I just thought of as we were talking is, from a marketer perspective, to now have this engaged audience like we just are so excited now to think about how, of course, we don't want to bombard them, but how else can we use this audience that's engaged with our brand? And two things that one we already did, and another one we're thinking about is historically there hasn't been much co-marketing between Masslock and CenturySafe. We go to market kind of separately with those two brands. But given that Masslock is celebrating a 100-year anniversary this year, which is such a big push for us, we have used the newsletter, the first newsletter, to introduce Masslock to the CenturySafe subscribers, which has been great. That's one of the first times we've done that. And then later this year, we're going to be launching some new products. So again, historically, when we launch products, we put them on our website. Maybe we do some paid search or something, some social announcements. But now we have this captive audience of over 100,000 contacts and growing rapidly that we'll be able to send them messages as we start launching new products in the second half of the year. So, other key learnings that we've realized based on these programs and these campaigns.
Yeah, fantastic. So want to kind of take this story that you've just heard and help you better understand how it kind of relates to you, what opportunities may exist for yourselves, and how you can really elevate your marketing automation. So I think the first thing is, everybody is kind of like, where do you start? CenturySafe had that, question as well. Or where are you stuck? Because, a lot of people kind of start the process of marketing automation, email marketing, and they're like, okay, we're doing some stuff. We don't know where to go. Really, the best thing you can do is, assess your situation by asking a lot of questions. So, what are your objectives? In the situation of CenturySafe, they were obviously looking to build the brand, share information and value with their customers. For other situations, you might be wanting to leverage marketing automation to really help with your funnel and converting leads into customers with your sales force, those types of things. So, it really runs the gamut, and really think about what are your objectives with that. And then the other side is really to understand, what is your tech stack? What system do you have or do you not have one? Data, what do you have already? How old is it? Those types of things. What is your budget? What kind of content do you have? Just be honest with yourselves as well as you're asking these questions. We all want to think the best of ourselves and our companies, but, be realistic and answer those questions so that you can have a really good thought process as to what kind of strategy and then how you're going to develop that into an execution. So I'm going to be walking through 5 different keys to success for your marketing automation, understanding your marketing automation platform, data, planning ahead, which we've talked a lot about already, prioritizing, and then just that it's all about the experience. So I'll jump into each of those. So the first thing is really understanding your marketing automation platform. Choosing the right one is an important thing, but a lot of people come into a role and they have a particular platform or system that their company is already using, and that's totally fine as well. So the big thing is obviously making sure that not only that you have somebody that understands the platform, but that they also understand marketing automation best practices, email marketing, or if you utilize like text messaging or app as part of your marketing automation platform, that they, understand that as well. And so, I think another piece of this is also having the documentation available for your platform, having like a consistent way that you organize that platform so that over the course of time, things don't get crazy and a mess, and you can locate what you want, you can see what's running and what's not. The data is, making sense, and those types of things as well, because a lot of things that we see is helping various clients to migrate into new platforms, into the same platform that they are currently using, just because things can get a little discombobulated over the course of time. So that documentation is really valuable. And I think the other side of it is, in understanding the platform and having that documentation, the fact that, turnover is obviously something that we all encounter within the workplace. And so we have to be cognizant of the fact that people are going to be in and out, and they're going to be within the platform, and then somebody else is going to be in it, and maybe you have a lot of people that leverage it. And so the more that you can keep a consistent way to organize your platform, the better off you're going to be, and that it can help the future individuals that are working within that platform. So, that's a really important first piece, is just know what you've got and how to use it. So the second piece is data. Obviously, data is really your most valuable resource that you have. In order to create the types of campaigns that you want to, that are really personalized and customized, that are reaching people with the information that they actually want to receive, is data. And so, be aware of that. Be aware that that is just such a valuable and important piece of the puzzle, whether that be from a standpoint of, capturing it whenever able, and considering it as well. What could you be leveraging as a data point that could help in providing value to your customers or potential customers? Another piece of data is the compliance side of things. So ensure that your team is familiar with different things with CAN spam, if you are working outside of the US as well, with GDPR, with CASL. And then also, we are seeing a lot of different data privacy acts even within the US, and understanding how that could affect not only the data you're capturing, how you're going to handle it, allowing people to understand what you're going to be leveraging their data for, and ensuring that they have the capability of telling you that they're interested in opting out, and or not having you collect data for them. Another piece of the data puzzle is the fact that data does decay over the course of time. From an email perspective, we see that it generally decays at a rate of about 2 to 3% a month. So it's very real, and you just need to be aware of the fact that you want to continuously be engaging with people that have opted in. And if they have not over the course of a certain period of time, you may want to consider re-engagement campaigns, so that you can determine, is this person in existence? Did they get a new email address? Could they, have been deceased or otherwise? And cleaning that out, which kind of leads to the last piece, which is data auditing. Because of the fact that there's different compliance, you're collecting data, data's decaying, you need to make sure that you're auditing your data every, couple of years at least, if not more often than that, to ensure that the data is quality, aside from just kind of the standardization type of stuff that you don't want somebody's name to be in all caps, "Hi, Jenny," yelling at them in their email. You also want to ensure that, everything is funneling properly, whether it be from like your CRM system into your automation, or, vice versa back, just to make sure that everything you want to be happening, everything that you intended to when you originally built, is still happening in that fashion. So this is a piece of the puzzle that we've talked, quite a decent amount about, is planning ahead. But I do think that, it deserves all of the thoughts and attention that has been put into it, because I think that that is an area where people just want to jump right into things, because oftentimes I think companies want to see those results, immediately. And that's great. And I think that there's an opportunity to take, a piece of that plan and execute on it. But if you're not really considering things on a holistic basis, you can definitely struggle. And if you just jump right into something without really putting time and effort into that strategy, it's not going to result in all that you want it to be. So, take the time, work across your different teams, to create what that roadmap might look like, get input, potentially do research as well. But the more that you can plan ahead of things and consider what could be, the better that the execution is going to be on the back end of what is. Prioritizing is obviously really important as well. the low-hanging fruit is obviously the best, opportunity you have to get started. And that's also the place where, when you say, oh, like where do we start? Obviously, take those opportunities for things that just make sense in the situation of Century Safe, Register My Safe, and the Welcome series were just what made sense. Welcome emails actually see about a 35% increase in open rates over other programs oftentimes. So that's a really great low-hanging fruit to reach out to introduce people to the brand right away as well when they might be opting into communications, to kind of set the stage for the value that having communications from your brand will result for them. So, take that opportunity. Another low-hanging fruit might be that cart abandonment side of things. So if you are on, have a e-commerce side of things and people are, abandoning their carts and you want an easy way that you might see results, that is definitely another one to communicate out with them. Again, obviously, if you have their information to be opted in and receive those communications. And then the last key for success is really kind of the idea that it's all about the experience. And this is kind of speaking to the thought process that we're not working in a vacuum. We no longer have, silos of here's, your emails, and then here's your online experience, and here's an ad that you might be receiving. People associate every interaction with your brand with, this whole experience of how they feel about the brand. And considering that in your journey for marketing automation can lead to such a fruitful result. If you really think about, okay, if somebody is going to be online, they might be seeing this, and then they're going to opt in, and then they're going to get the email. And, how does that interact with what they saw online? How does that interact with maybe a billboard that they saw when they were driving down the street? Different things like that you should really consider so that there is that deep connection with your brand across all channels, as well as it's just a seamless thing that people aren't like, oh, I got this email, but something else occurred and it just didn't make sense. You want them to really feel like you're thinking of them. When we talk about personalizing and customizing the email itself, think about that for the experience and how that is related, as well as to, how are you thinking about how that went and how is that personalized and kind of customized as a whole to them. So then the last piece I wanted to speak to was just the idea of crawl, walk, run mentality. And that is just kind of the idea that you start where you start. You might be in that crawl stage. Some of you might even be in like lying down and not really have anything, email related, marketing automation that you are working through. If you're crawling, maybe that means you're doing more of the batch and blast side of things, where you're just sending, hey, I have this list of people opted into communications and they're receiving this one email. That's okay. Like, that's an okay place to start. You might be gathering opt-ins at that point in time. As you start to grow and build then and start to strategize further, you get to that walking stage of being able to, segment maybe a little bit of your audience or trigger a couple of the communications out, and maybe start to dabble into, some customization of things. And then, you want to continue to work towards running, and running is where, you have that complete communications flow, that roadmap that you've built out. Every instance that you want is occurring, and people are receiving those communications, and oftentimes they're likely triggered based upon an action or lack thereof, and that everything is truly more personalized, more customized than ever before. It's really a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it certainly isn't something that you can just jump into necessarily the running phase of things, but don't get frustrated. Continue on that path and work towards, that running piece of things. And the other side of it is also that, you're never truly done. And I think Eric, mentioned this as well, speaking to the idea of, like, what more could we do? How can we even better these things? We have been running different tests. There's always opportunities for subject line testing and otherwise to optimize. You're going to continuously want to ensure that you're updating the content. What's going to maintain value for your customers? Because an article that maybe you wrote 2 years ago might not be as relevant as today. So don't just kind of set it and forget it. Once you get to that running stage, ensure that you're continuing to build and better and optimize and audit all of those types of things as well. So with that, we'll open things up for questions.
Yeah, we have a few questions in the chat and we have time to answer these and maybe a couple more. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to pop them either into the chat or the Q&A. So first question, if you don't have a CRM in place, how difficult is it to accomplish marketing automation within an email platform?
Yeah, well, let me, I guess, clarify a little bit. So on the CRM side of things, if you're speaking to, you don't have like a database yourself, I would say, databases can be made up of anything. And oftentimes you can utilize a marketing automation platform, which can be as simple as something like MailChimp to house that data set. And it can also capture additional opt-ins that you have. So truly, getting to that place of having some sort of automation, it's a step, but it is certainly feasible and doable. And you can right size it to whatever, budget, company size, program size that you're looking for.
And I would just add from our perspective, the Register My Safe, that was a separate database. So for the past 10 plus years, people could go online and register a safe. And I think before that, I'm sure there was probably you mail in a card and you could register a safe. So we did have a database of all that information, but again, it was being used from a customer service perspective, but it wasn't being used from a marketing or sales perspective. It wasn't linked up with our Oracle CRM. But as part of this project, obviously we needed to extract that data and leverage that within Eloqua.
Awesome. I know we talked a little bit about data audit earlier. Christina asked, what are some things you should look for in your data audit?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things is obviously just ensuring that the right data is in the right fields within your CRM system, in your automation platform, because that we find is often like the heart of issues is, something is populating with last names instead of first names, or like the case is all wrong. So that's one big thing that I would definitely start off with. The second one would be, just checking to see, what data you have available, because I think sometimes we forget some things that we might be capturing. Maybe we sent out a survey or something like that, and we forget, oh yeah, we had that information from somewhere, or, customer service maybe is asking people, about some sort of information that could be helpful in over the course of, communications to them, that type of stuff. So just be aware of what you have, because as you start to strategize moving forward and further like roadmap things out, that might be really helpful in developing, whether it be like content or even just creating those initial emails over the course of time. And then I would also say just making sure that you are being, compliant with all of the data that you're capturing. So, are there unsubscribes? Do you have that list? Checking to see who hasn't engaged over the course of time, and maybe you want to decide to either sunset those records or initially first go through a re-engagement process to say, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, see if they click through. You can either do it based upon like an action, or if they even open the email, and then start to say, okay, these records are obviously no longer engaged with our brand. And I know that's very hard for a lot of companies, because you say, oh, I have 12,000 people on my email list, and then you go through it and you realize that only 8,000 might be actually engaged with it. That's okay. You'd rather have quality leads and customers that are engaging than to just have a number that you're sending to. And also is going to hurt your deliverability over the course of time. So you want to be cognizant of that.
I think another key learning was, so we provided Jenny with, again, it wasn't necessarily in the database, it was Excel files of, for these 140 safes, here are the safes to cross-sell and upsell and accessories to cross-sell, as well as for these safes, here's the video URL and here's the manual URL. So we had that information. We had to clean it up a little bit, audit that, and give that to Jenny. And then lo and behold, there were a lot of safes that were in the Register My Safe database model numbers that wasn't on that list that we gave to Jenny. So it was a couple of things. One is some were discontinued. So we had to kind of go back and say, okay, if somebody owns a safe that's discontinued, we still want to obviously cross-sell, upsell, and provide them information about their safe. But then we also realized a lot of people were putting in incorrect safe numbers. So we made an update to our Register My Safe website to validate the safe model numbers when they enter in their model number to make sure that it is a accurate model number. So that was some of the cleanup that we did. And then working with Jenny, if we don't recognize the safe that they've registered based on whatever cleanup we could do, because we did go through and manually cleaned up a lot, we just had some generic messaging and some generic cross-selling and upselling if we couldn't identify the specific safe. So that was some data. And then we also decided from a East perspective is just to focus on US. So we're not sending emails to Canadian customers or European customers, even though we do business there, and that would probably be a future phase. But for the crawl mentality and from a data perspective, just want to start with the US.
Fantastic. Next question. If a client provides an opted-in list and their data is all over the place, they aren't sure how old the leads are, and they've never used marketing automation before because they didn't know where to start, what's the best approach to start sending to those leads?
So they are opted in. That's a really great question, because I think a lot of people are probably in that same boat, where if you aren't certain if they're opted in, that is a huge red flag, I guess, from a starting point. You want to ensure that they obviously are opted in. If they are customers, obviously you have a little bit more leeway from that perspective, but prospects, I would be very, very hesitant to move forward with if we're unsure if they're opted in, just because that would go against canned spam. But if you can move forward from there. Obviously, like a welcome series is a really great place to start, just because that's kind of that introduction to the brand. If it's been, a while since they might have signed up for something and they haven't received it, it's also a great way to kind of be like, hey, here we are, this is who we are. This is the type of content, that we want to provide to you. So that would be my suggestion as far as where to start from that end. As far as if you're looking for, like even what systems and such to start in, if you don't have one, again, like I said, there are definitely a ton of different marketing automation platforms out there, and some that are free. And you can start kind of with some of those as a way to be able to at least get emails out if you've never done them before.
And the other thing I would just add is, yeah, Jenny and I had these discussions because I wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm like, come on, can't we go back, sick? Because these are customers of ours. So luckily, they are customers of ours. They've registered their safe. Can't we go back, 6 months, 12 months? And Jenny would always say, well, remember, emails, every 2% go bad a month. I forget the stat that you use.
Yeah.
So when we first launched it, we went back, I don't remember, maybe like 6 months, and we monitored what the engagement was for those contacts. And then we decided to go back a little bit further. And yeah, definitely when we went back further, the engagement was a lot lower. So then we just stopped. And we have had conversations, do we do a re-engagement email to those older contacts? And for now, we haven't touched those older contacts, but that may be something we look into the future. But we won't just add those older contacts to any of these campaigns. We do some sort of re-engagement email with them.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. The next question, this is, kind of a hot topic right now, I think, with the news last week about iOS 15. So Wendy asks, have you guys started thinking about how you're going to deal with your email open-based automation for re-engagement, win-back series, to remove people from file when they stop opening messages? And then what your plan is with that upcoming iOS 15 how you're going to maintain list hygiene when it starts to look like everyone is or isn't opening due to the Apple Mail changes. And totally fair to say still figuring it out, because I can tell you from my perspective, that's the boat I'm in. I'm still figuring it out.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be, to some degree, an ongoing process and working through strategy with regards to that. But I really think like initially when I started, reading through the details and information, it was a big thing of click-throughs are key, and how can we better elicit action within emails to get people to go back to the website, complete a survey, go over to social media. Like, what is that task that we can really push people in heading towards, rather than just relying on, yes, they opened it, they must have looked at something. We really strongly believe in, the click-through side of things as a starting point at present. Obviously, we don't want to provide all of the details within the email. We want them to have to take that action and take that next step. We want them to deeply engage with the brand. So from our end, that is certainly a big deal. And that is where we are driving to provide enough value that people are taking on the clicks and actually going then to various places from the emails.
And from my perspective, I would just add, this is another benefit of working with an agency, because they have multiple clients that are dealing with these same issues. So yeah, I do research. I have my own thoughts, and we have to talk with our attorneys from time to time, but I always go to Laughlin first and say, hey, what's going on? What do we need to do? What are your other clients doing? It just makes it a lot easier to rely on their expertise.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We're almost to the top of the hour. So thank you both very much. I want to go ahead and announce our winners of the swag for this session. Brian D'Orazio and Tony Tran are our swag winners. So keep an eye out in your email that you registered for the webinar. We'll be reaching out to you to get your shipping information. Thank you guys so much, Jenny, Eric. This was a fantastic session. Just as a reminder for everybody who attended, the recording of this will be available soon. We will send it out to your email that you registered for the webinar with. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.